Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ingrained and Balanced podcast. Wow, am I excited. We actually have a very special guest today from across the pond, actually. So it's a little late his time, but he's willing to do this with us today. His name's Alex Crockford. Just to give you a little insight, Alex is a personal trainer. He's a YouTube sensation, an actor. Now, I actually found Alex on YouTube during the pandemic. Obviously, like everybody, our gyms were closed. I didn't have any equipment at home. I kind of had to find some content, something not only to motivate me, but to give me some advice on how to use my own body weight to get a quick workout and something so I can maintain my fitness during the lockdown, because we didn't know what that was looking like, how long it was going to be, so on and so forth. So I found Alex, unbelievable. He's got great content, little 20-minute videos that help you use your own, again, their body weight, no equipment necessary. This is what got me hooked to him, but I also follow a lot of his other videos for different types of advice and things to do to help me with my fitness regimen. So without further ado, say hi. Well, first of all, my co-host, Marty Heilman's on the call as well. And let me introduce you guys now. Without further ado, Alex Crockford, my man, thanks for doing this for you. How are you today?
Oh, that's all right. Thank you so much for inviting me on, and thank you for the great intro. And thanks for finding me on YouTube and everything else. It honestly, when I'm putting content out there, hoping to help people, sometimes I just see numbers or comments. So it's amazing to actually have this conversation with you, who's been enjoying my videos, my content. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great, great, great. And obviously, I follow you on Instagram, do a lot of great stuff there. And we'll get into your Crockfit app later that people can kind of look into and see if they might be able to kind of engage with that in their personal lives. But first, I want to get into a little, if you don't mind, your journey, how it started. Were you into fitness early on in life, or is it something that you found later?
Yeah, I guess fitness and sports. Sports mainly was the key thing. When I was younger, I was playing football and basketball, or should we say soccer and basketball. And I was always into that and quite active. So it's not something that I took on later on in life. But it was around teenage years or college time where I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to build muscle for two reasons. I wanted to get better at the sports that I was doing in football and basketball. And I also picked up those men's magazines and saw the physiques and the bodies and thought, how do I get these bodies, kind of thing. So that was my gateway into lifting weights and going to the gym. And from there onwards, that was always my key interest, going to further education, to university for fitness and personal training. And that was always my strong point. I was never very academic. I didn't really enjoy much else massively. So then it went on and became a personal trainer. And I was a personal trainer for 8 or 9 years in a physical space, working with one-to-one clients, hundreds of clients over the years. And then that gave me the foundation to build my Crockfit method, my platform, the social media that I've been creating, enough for me to merge away from the one-to-one to really fulfill my passion and purpose, to reach more and more people and have as big an impact as I can, not just in health and fitness, but in overall wellness and happiness, because I really think it's all interconnected and intertwined so much. So now with my content and my mission, I really am keeping that so much in mind about this isn't just a workout, but what else is around the workout, exactly what we're going to be talking about, the habits of your day-to-day life that's going to fuel your health, fitness, happiness, and all the rest of it.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. Since you just mentioned the habits, right? I wanted to ask, do you remember early on in the beginning, what are some of the transformable habits that you had to adopt and try out, or were things that maybe didn't work, but some the things that maybe did work that you're still practicing today? Anything stand out?
I've always been a walker. I've always said, get your 10,000 steps, or maybe it's a very arbitrary, random number, or maybe we could say an hour of walking a day or something like that. But from the early days when I was training and working with lots of clients and building my own fitness up, I always just loved getting out for my walk, whether that's for the mental sides or being out in nature or the calorie burn to stay lean or to keep the legs fresh and strong to walk up hills and things like that. So definitely steps. And then I'd probably say back in the early days, I think my family used to do Lent quite a lot, the 40 days, 40 nights of giving something up. And I think those I was young, I got two older sisters, and they would say we're giving up chocolate and sweets before Easter or something like that. And I was probably like less than 10 years old. So I'd be a person who would be eating chocolates and sweets and things like that. So for 40 days, 40 nights, I would be not eating any of this junk food and sweets. Most kids don't do that. And for every year onwards, I continued that on, which there are pros and cons to going full nothing compared to having a balance in your routine. I learned discipline and motivation and structure from early on, not just through that, but through many things. So that's another habit that I learned. And over the years, I started to help my clients say, how about we just have 3 months now for you to just get your head down and focus on this one thing? And over the years, I've kind of gone through that process of being disciplined so much that I've come out through the other side now. And I very, very rarely do a 40-day challenge or a 3-month diet or anything like that, because it's really given me the tools that I've needed to now just live a continuous, healthy, habitual routine. Maybe that could be accomplished without that, but that was just one thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, Marty, isn't that funny? We talked about the whole word diet, right?
Right, right,
We
absolutely.
hate
We
it.
talk,
We hate that
yeah,
word.
yeah. In our introductory, podcast, a couple of things that Lonnie and I talked about was our own journey. Like, how did we get into fitness? Very similar story to yours. We both, or I did some sports, and Lonnie definitely wanted to, be more
I
attractive to the
wanted to.
girls. That's why he picked up weights, and I learned how to work out, from doing football, the American football, the actual real football.
Oh, oh, here we go.
What you said about sort of like how you got into it, definitely, I think we can both totally relate to that. And it's interesting that you're talking now about, well, hey, here are the habits that you find, the most probably when you were talking about them, I got the sense you found them the most enjoyable. Like when you were talking about your walks, I got the sense that those were really very, very important to you. But that's a very different habit than what you were doing when you first got into fitness, right? If you first got into fitness and said, "Hey, I want to do this for sports and to be more attractive to the opposite sex or to whoever you're trying to attract," that's walking is going to get you somewhere, but it's not going to get you maybe where we wanted to go when we were in teenage years, right? So to me, that's very interesting that sounds like there's been a progression in sort of, how you think about fitness and what you're doing to get to those goals. Is that right?
Yeah, that's totally true. Because sometimes the something simple or easy or more achievable, like walking, if I'm in a tough place or I'm too busy or I'm not aligned with my goals appropriately or whatever, the walking is something that I can do. And that can be quite transformative for me to then be more productive in if I want to lift weights or do the bodyweight workouts or do something else. And I see this happen so much with my clients or the people that I talk to. If they're super unmotivated or uninspired to do anything, or they feel overwhelmed by starting a workout program or do exercises that they haven't done for a long time, asking them to do that is often a step that's too big. And when you get them to do something that's lifts their confidence, their self-belief, then that spirals into a positive place to they might end up being full bodybuilder gyms in in a year's time, or they might just start to be a runner, or they might start to be a cyclist or bodyweight workout calisthenics guy. But there's usually for most people those incremental steps.
I love that because I'm a total incrementalist. So before I dive into the pool, I'm going to touch my toe into the pool, right? See how the water is, and then put your leg in, and then maybe I'm going to hop in, and then by the end of the day, I'm diving in, I'm doing somersaults, and yeah, like that's how I live, and not everybody is like that, but I know that that speaks to a lot of people, and when you talk about the fact that sometimes if you're not super motivated, hey, you could fall back on something that, hey, I know that I really really enjoy. It's not that hard, and I know it's going to make me feel good. It may even put me in a better mind space, and then maybe once I'm in a better mind space, then I'm going to get that motivation back. I'm going to feel better about myself, give myself some forgiveness, and now I can really attack something harder. I know that's the way that my mind often works. So that really speaks to me.
Yeah, that's so true. And sometimes you've got to have those habits as the backup, because if people's backup are something more unhealthy or that doesn't motivate them, then that creates the negative spiral. But if you do the work, the repetitions, the weeks, the months, the years of knowing that, oh wait, my backup is some self-care, some hydration, some early nights in bed, some meditation, some walking out in nature. If they're the habits that you fall back on, then you know you're going to find your way back again. So that's where you've got to have that self awareness and those habits in place that are easily to pick back up.
When you say self-care, I often think of lots of parts of my workout as being self-care. Like if I do stretching, that's self-care for me because I enjoy it. And some people think it's super helpful and it's wonderful, and other people have different ideas about it. But for me, it's almost like a gift to myself. So I really enjoy it. It puts me in a better headspace. And whether it's super helpful to me or not, I know that it's going to make me feel better in the long run. That's going to help my physical, probably, and definitely my mental, welfare and healthness.
That enjoyment that you're explaining is everything when it comes to habits as well, because in a health and fitness journey, if you're pushing yourself to create a habit or forcefully do a workout program or a task or a type of food or diet, the worst word, through lack of enjoyment, as soon as that peak motivation drops back, so do those because you don't enjoy it. If you create the things or follow the things that you enjoy, when the motivation drops, you're going to keep doing it. You want to go and stretch because it makes you feel good. You enjoy it at the time and you know you're going to enjoy it later on as well. So if you're forcing yourself into the food you don't like or the exercise routine that just doesn't get you excited, then that's not the right path. Can you see yourself doing this in 5 years' time, 10 years' time when motivation drops? It's the key thing.
It's one of the things we preach. We're going to be talking about a lot is how do you control that mindset? How do you get yourself into that mindset where it's not approached as a temporary fix, which is how we connect that with the word diet. Get that. I always tell people, get that out of your vocabulary. It's a lifestyle change that you have to commit to. And there's things you have to do every day. Like I get up every morning and I do the same thing every morning as it relates to, meditating. I don't open my screens on my phones. I don't look at social media. You know what I mean? I have my coffee, of course. But I work out early in the morning. Now that's something I had to adopt later in life, just with my schedule and availability. I used to love working out at the end of the day. As I got into my mid 40s, I'm like, I don't have the energy anymore. And, at 5 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. So I had to make a change in my life to going to bed earlier, making sure I can get up early enough to get those things done before I even go to the gym. Cause I'm not one to I can't wake up at 5:30, 6 in the morning, go right to the gym. I like to meditate while I'm, having my coffee and relax a little bit. And I get myself into that mindset. But I've been doing this for years. So again, this podcast, we're going to be trying to get people to shift their mindset on how they need to change and be willing to make sacrifices, right? And be committed to them. With that, is there something that you can tell us right now that you do differently since the pandemic on a daily, to get your day started, or that you advise your clients to do?
I think somewhat of what you said is absolutely it, especially since the pandemic. And I found this, I mean, we're not all in lockdown now, but what that phase taught me, although I work at home anyway, so this habit, what I'm about to say, really does shift into my life because I don't have an office and I work at home. But spending all time at home meant that lots of parts of my day kind of merged together. So the things that I do for myself became less of a priority because I'd find time to do it later, but then wouldn't really kind of thing. So what you said about having to wake up and get it done is hugely important because I would, yeah, wake up, the meditation, the journaling, the workout if I know that I don't have time to do it later. So I guess the best advice would be is what finding out what your priorities are for you and making sure that you get them done first or as soon in the day as possible. Because like I said, either the tiredness or the motivation dips throughout the day. If you're going to do it later, it might not happen. One thing I could throw in there that I adopt sometimes, but I'm not 100% on it, is cold showers. Cold water therapy has a lot of great science thrown in there, a lot of
Yeah,
good
yeah.
stuff. But I want to talk mainly on the mental side of doing it, and I'm not always good at doing it. Usually, the time where I give myself an excuse like it's really cold outside or I don't have time to do it today are usually the days that I have that perspective and self awareness, being like, what voice is saying that? The wrong voice. This is the time to do it if you're making up an excuse. Because if you do what's challenging there and you fight that battle and beat yourself, make a great decision there, which lasts just 1 minute, I feel like it strengthens the decisions I have to make for the rest of the day. I've done something difficult already. And it's a great feeling when it's over as well. And trying to get away from that instant gratification that I personally can easily fall into with the world of social media and ordering food very quickly and all of this. When something is easy up front, it's usually bad for you in the long term. And when something is hard up front, it's usually good in the long run. Usually, not all the time, but I find that with exercise and cold showers and healthy food.
A quick question on the cold showers, because this is, I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff about it. There's lots of talk going on. There's entrepreneurs have set up, sort of cold pods and all this kind of stuff. And I have a basic understanding that this is good in terms of anti-inflammatory, and inflammation is terrible in terms of, that's what you want to fight in terms of aging. The biggest enemy for in terms of aging is inflammation. So if you're going to do cold dips, cold showers, things like that, in general, just basically that seems like it's going to be a good thing. So why do you like it? What is your specific reason for it? It sounds like it's also kind of mental for you. And then sort of how do you go about it? Like how long do you do it? How cold is cold? All those. What do you do it after a workout, before a workout? Sort of like, if you could
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do think it's mainly mental, and for the acute feeling that I get, I do know or have heard about many of the things that you spoke about and why it might be good for me as well physically. But the mental feeling of challenging myself in that moment, knowing that I can push through it. But then that feeling of when you have actually done it quite cold for a certain amount of time, you get an amazing release, an adrenaline release, and shivers across the body, and this tingling sensation, which is a really great feeling. It raises your state. What you could do breath work to do the same, or you could do some sprints to do the same, but it raises your vibration, your frequency, your state, your awareness. And sometimes in the morning I feel like I need that. How long do I do it for? If it's really cold, then not very long normally, maybe 1 minute, and it's at the end of a warm, comfortable shower. The hardcore guys would probably just go in with the cold shower and do all your washing and your bits in the cold shower and get out. I will enjoy my shower and then finish on cold,
I know
personally, at
your
this
bits.
level.
No, I
At
love it.
this
I love
level.
it. I'm going to do some research just to our listeners out there, and I'm going to put some links in the show notes. So, we'll do, I always tell people a big part of the show is we're going to do the research and provide content, a little education. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of that in the episode when we publish it for you listeners. If you want to dive into the cold showers a little bit more. um, cool. I know we're taking up a lot of your time, but I wanted to get into some of your Crockford content. You know, some of the stuff you're trying to do on your app, and before I get into that, I know Marty has a question for you in regards to your personal workouts. Go ahead, Marty.
I've seen a lot of your workouts, and it's, you know, impressive stuff. What are you doing yourself? Like, how do you keep yourself in shape? Is it just, are you doing the same workouts, you know, that you're doing in the videos, just maybe on a different level? Or what is your core workout today? You know, what is your routine?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I love the question because it's you're keeping it real. You're bringing the world of videography and social media to the front so people can know actually what is happening behind the scenes. Because I see this a lot. People with incredible big bodybuilder, bulging muscle bodies are doing hit workouts. You think, have they got that body via doing that? Um, and yeah, my training has gone through many different phases over the years. And to begin with, I started loving the gym, and I built quite a lot of muscle and a fitness model type body kind of thing. At the moment, mostly of what you see I'm posting is what I'm doing myself because I'm going through a really intense period of filming for my app. So I'm filming long form videos like you've done on my YouTube, are inside my app as well. And because I have a lot of catching up to do, those workouts are basically my training at the moment. So they're not all, there's a lot of body weight, but sometimes it's single piece of equipment like resistance bands or dumbbells. So the programs that I've created are finding ways to really most efficiently use a single piece of equipment in the best way to build muscle, increase strength and endurance, and cardiovascular fitness and things like this. So I might not have the most amount of muscle as I've had as when I was hitting the gym every day or a few times a week when that was my routine. And I kind of miss it and will be back to that when I finally catch up. But in all honesty, I'm not in the gym regularly at the moment. I am what you see on my channel is my training.
I did one of your episodes last week, which was perfect for me because I only had about 30 minutes. You know, it was perfect. I rolled out my yoga mat, my couch back a little bit, and it was perfect. You know, now I've never engaged with your app because I get what I need off your YouTube page. But if you want to take this opportunity to tell people a little bit more about your CrockFit app and what you're trying to do with that, and is there something coming down the road that you're working on that maybe nobody knows about you want to share, or tell us more?
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. I love putting out all the content on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere. And I guess what the app does really is it's all about the programming. Instead of doing random workouts, or of course you can piece random workouts together to create a program, the app is all about how to structure that program the best way, the most efficient way, partnering muscle groups together in a 12-week or up to a 1 year training program in different types of formats and different pieces of equipment and things like this. Not only the workout, but of course the nutrition guide, the recipes for inspiration and motivation, as well as the one-to-one support with the app that I think is really important for a lot of people starting out, maybe not later on down the journey, but just when you start any journey, it's important to know that when you have a question, somebody's there to answer it for you. Because if you Google things, you know that you're left open to a world of of many answers. So it's nice to have someone that you trust that has a response. So I make sure that I'm available one to one for people. And then the worldwide community. There's thousands of people using the app, and I feel that sense of community or tribe or support is important for people. When you go about this journey by yourself, sometimes it's easy to fall off or give yourself um, too many excuses or things like that, which is fine. But when you're in a group and you see other people progressing alongside of you, it really picks you up, especially if they're on the same program or same journey as you. So that's all just in Facebook at the moment, but it's a great community. And all of the things we haven't spoken about everything, but I really want to take Crockfit, my content outside and inside to the app, really a more 360 wellness approach from not just fitness and nutrition, but the health, the happiness, the mindfulness, even spirituality, all of that combined into one. And I want to continue evolving my app to support that kind of direction, and my social media and that kind of direction. So that's where it's going. Many other things, but that's the key.
Well, great. I mean, to our listeners, I'm going to list all the different, your handles to all your different platforms in the show notes so people can access it directly. And we'll send some stuff out, obviously, on Instagram and stuff like that. But I just have one more question as it relates to kind of winding down at the end of your day, your end of your evening, kind of like winding down our little conversation here. Is there something you do at the end of every day before you go to bed? Like me, I turn the TV off, the screens off. I try to really wind down a little bit. And sometimes I'm a little stressed out still from like work or whatever. So I have little breathing exercises I do to help me fall asleep. Because if I don't, I could sit there for an hour and think about what I've got to get done in the next few days. So is there something that you practice every day, little habits that you can put out there?
Well, I mean, you've said it there. I really resonate with what you said. It's very easy to just keep working late into the night, put your head on the pillow, and your head's still going crazy. It does take time to wind down. And I believe that evening routine is critical for that morning routine. And when people say, "How do I get better sleep?" or "How do I get more efficient in the morning?" it begins with the evening, the night before. And yeah, closing down technology a good hour before the bedtime. Try to stop eating also 2-3 hours before bed, because that key initial phase of digestion, you don't want that to be happening whilst you're sleeping, because it will affect your sleep quality. So get that initial bit of digestion done 2-3 hours before sleep. The technology, and then the breath work, slowing down the breathing. Make sure you're turning on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, and that doesn't get switched on until you really slow down the breathing. Try to make it nasal only, unless you're doing a more transformative breath work, but nose only, in and out. And then anything that calms you down, reading a book, your favorite music, dancing, stretching, whatever resonates with the person that is detached from the stress, the emails, some form of disconnection.
I always tell people, don't watch the news. Whatever you do, if you're watching the
No,
news before you go to bed, it's a recipe for disaster right there, man.
don't do that.
Yeah,
Definitely don't
Marty.
do
Anything else, Marty?
No, I think this is great. I mean, I love that you're integrating sort of mental and physical health and wellness. To me, they're inseparable. Like I know that I feel better mentally when I feel better physically, and vice versa. I mean, it's just I've always viewed the two as very connected. So I love that you are sort of pushing that also. That's huge for me. Huge for me.
That's true. And the more people see that connection, they'll be able to feel it as well and be able to live better, healthier habits. Thank you so much for having me. Great chatting with you.
Alex,
Thanks,
thanks again,
Alex.
brother. Really appreciate it. Again, people, if you really like this episode and the stuff we talked about, and hopefully you learned something, click subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share this episode with your friends, coworkers, family, everybody you know. All right, that you feel can use this information to better their life. All right, guys, we'll talk soon. All right. I mean, that was great, Marty. What do you think?
I love that interview. There was definitely I'm always super happy, like when I went to college and had a course, if I could take like one nugget away from that class and think like, wow, like I learned, just one thing, I would be happy in like a 3 hour class.
Right,
And I
right.
think in that interview there, I was able to take more than one thing away and that I'm going to remember. And so, within 20 minutes, like that's awesome. That's
And
smart.
that's it.
Like,
Right? It's little tidbits, little snapshots, that we're trying to offer you listeners out there. Something you could tune in to our show and just learn something, something that you can implement into your daily life that you don't have to count calories. I mean, if you want to count calories, great, but we're not here to preach, long workout routines and how much you should be lifting and so on and so forth. Just something you could take away that you could start tomorrow. And it's easily, again, something you can get ingrained into your daily life where it's it's second nature. You don't have to make decisions. Should I do this today? No, it's just automatic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested, and I'm anxious to start. I'm going to test the cold shower. Like, that to me is something that I can take away and see, like, hey, is this something that's going to work for me? Like, when he talked about it, like, hey, it really, sort of invigorates him and sort of resets him, mentally. And I have a pretty good idea that there's sort of side benefits that he didn't even really talk about, and that's not really why he's doing it. So for me, that's one of those things, like, hey, I know that this is really going to be pretty good for me if I can do it. And now, to me, I'm going to test and say, is this something that I can put into my routine that will work for me? Or is this something that I'm not going to enjoy, and I tried it and it's not going
Right,
to work? So I'm
right,
curious to see that, so
right. Well, and to our listeners out there, like I said, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to email Alex as well and see if if he'll share a link or maybe an article or something that has some data on it or whatever. So if people want to learn more about how cold showers are beneficial in getting your day started, or maybe doing it at the end of the day. I don't know. I've read a little bit about it, but I definitely can't speak to it. I haven't done enough research, but there'll be some links down in the show notes for you if you're interested in learning more about that. Well, I think that wraps up this episode, buddy.
yeah, I think it was great. I think his app is a really a cool idea. I'm like fascinated by the fact, this is, Alex is somebody who is followed by like tens, even like more than 100,000 people, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that he's got an app where he is going to offer, sort of one-to-one responses where he is actually responding, and not like, six people in the Philippines or something are responding. Like, that's pretty awesome. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
he's got some, cool stuff going on.
Yeah, I thought you would. Like I said, I've been following for a couple of years now, and it's never boring. There's always great stuff for me to throw into my routine. So it's been great. Well, we're gonna let you go here, folks. So just make sure you click subscribe and the plus button, depending on which platform you prefer to listen to your podcast, so you can get notifications when our new episodes are published. We're going to be doing them on Wednesdays, by the way, every other Wednesday, until we start doing them on a weekly basis early sometime next year. For now, we're signing off. Stay well. All right, guys. Bye bye.